Good morning, everybody. Learning is a journey and not a destination, said Emerson. What he means is learning is a process and not an end result. To recall Rumi's words, he said, "Yesterday I was clever and I changed the world. Today I am wise and I have to change myself." So, learning helps us to grow and change ourselves to the better tomorrow. Today, we will learn how to learn grammar through literature. Yes, this national level student development program, which offers free online certificate course in effective English language development, is organized by V.V.N Degree College, Bengaluru. V.V.N Degree College, a unit of V.V.N Trust, is one of the pioneer institutions in Bengaluru, providing academically excellent value-based education for girl students. Since its inception, Vasavi Vidyaniketan Degree College has pioneered the discipline of commerce. Our objective is to provide quality education to girl students and empower them. The college offers graduation course in commerce and has sustained its glorious track record all through the years. The institute is located in one of the most posh locations of Bengaluru in Karnataka, which makes it easily accessible and safe for girl students. V.V.N Degree College, affiliated to Bengaluru City University, has created an indelible mark for upholding Indian culture and imparting quality education with techno-savvy corporate training programs to enable the students to be confident, responsible citizens with positive thinking and right orientation of mind to face life with all its opportunities and challenges. At V.V.N Degree College, Vanivilas Road, Vivipuram, Bengaluru in Karnataka, we offer BCom degree along with certificate courses for all the students. Along with the BCom degree, certificate courses in computer fundamentals, MS Office, Tally ERP9, Photoshop, GST, and in soft skills communication skills, soft skills, campus to corporate training are provided. On this 13th day of effective English
Hello.
language development online course, I, Prasanna Udpikar, HOD of English at V.V.N Degree College and the coordinator of this National Student Development Program, am privileged to welcome and introduce today's resource person of the first session, Professor Dr. Parimala Nijigal from Bengaluru on learning grammar through literature. Professor Dr. Parimala Nijigal, MA, PhD, holds a doctoral degree from Kuvempu University for her thesis on modernity, change in the fiction of Shivaram Karan and Chinua Achebe. Professor Dr. Parimala Nijigal has worked extensively on comparative literature. She has presented numerous papers in national and international seminars and conferences on comparative literature, English language teaching, and teaching methodologies in English. Professor Dr. Parimala Nijigal has conducted workshops on innovative techniques in teaching English in Symbiosis, Pune, and at Tirupati. She has visited numerous places in connection with academic activities. To name a few, Pune, Warangal, Taraikudi, Vizag, Shimoga, Vellore, Terikeri, and others. Professor Dr. Parimala Nijigal is a dedicated teacher. Dedicated here refers to her love for teaching, her love for practicing innovative methodologies to reach out the students, her patience in understanding students' problems and trying to increase their confidence by teaching easy techniques to equip them with language skills. She is a very soft spoken and humble person. Teaching is her passion, and today she is with us to teach um, grammar learning through literature. I welcome on behalf of management, CEA&A, principal, faculty members, and all the students, Dr. Professor Parimala Nijigal, to this digital platform. Welcome you, madam. I also welcome all the management members, President Sri Arun Kumar BS, Secretary IS Prasad, CE&A Dr. K. Sheshamurthy, Principal Professor G. Venugopal, all the faculty members and students at V.V.N. Degree College. I also extend a very warm and hearty welcome to all our participants who very religiously on time log in and take the benefit of these learning lessons. Over to Professor Dr. Parimala Nijigal. She's going to speak on the topic, learning grammar through literature.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Priscilla. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Prasanna. Yes. First of all, I would like to their lives in yesterday's Air India crash at Kozhikode. Let's all pray for their near and dear ones. With this condolence, I would like to really start off the session. Good morning, everybody. My dear young students. At the outset, let me thank the management of V.V.N. Degree College, the principal, the faculty members, the technical team, and the Department of English for the wonderful opportunity created for all of us in this virtual platform. My special recognition and thanks to Professor Prasanna, the Department Head of English, IQAC Coordinator, and the brain behind this national level SDP program on effective English speaking skills. Before getting on to my topic, learning grammar through literature, I would like to really speak a few words on communication in general, language, and then grammar in particular. Communication, as all of us know, is an integral part of any social setup. Effective communication is essential to create, sustain, and develop good relationships, both at personal and professional levels. Good communication stems from correct usage of language. And as all of us know, language is a dynamic entity and it grows with time, space, and the users too. Hence, there is a dire need for certain codes and norms to govern this usage so that it accords some standardization for the usage of language. The next question that really crops up is Is grammar really necessary? Is it inevitable? Or is it not possible to really communicate well without grammar? My answer to these questions is both a no and an yes. A no because a child or even an illiterate person, they communicate very effectively even without knowing the ABCD of grammar. They wouldn't even have heard about the word grammar, yet they are successful communicators. And in this context, I would like to recall the words of Professor Prakash, who in his opening session remarked that one doesn't necessarily need to know grammar for a kacha usage, kacha or rather a raw usage of the language. He made it very clear. It's not definitely necessary for a raw usage. If you just want to communicate, it's not needed. But if one intends to give a proper framework and refinement for a language, then it definitely needs some norms, and that norm is provided by grammar. Grammar is a glue that holds the sentences together properly. To give us a very simple example, you think about a furniture, a carpenter who wants to create a piece of furniture, may I say table. Mere wood would not suffice. He needs nails, bolts, nets, and any adhesive like Fevicol, so that all these blocks of wood would be properly fused together. And otherwise, it would just be a jumbled pile of wood. Similarly, in the case of grammar, in the case of language, grammar plays the role of nails and glue to hold the sentences together. Just learning of theoretical grammar is rather dull, cumbersome, and often appears challenging, especially for first generation learners. You ask any student for that matter with a rural background or any other student, usually students say, oh, grammar is very tough. Somehow the stigma attached to grammar is always tough. Hence, grammar learning can be made more interesting and effective through activity-based, alternative, innovative methods. We as teachers of English, definitely we need to really evolve our own methods to make learning grammar more interesting. There are several methods of learning grammar. The conventional method, the chalk talk method or whatever, and then using realia, meaning trying to really make use of certain objects or whatever is available in the classroom, and then the dictoglass, wherein of course a short piece is being dictated and then repeatedly dictated, and then we ask the students to really come up with certain words and they need to really write that. And then of course we have the drilling method, music. So you find that there are several methods of teaching grammar. Today, we are going to explore the possibility of learning grammar through literature. Something has happened. Are you able to listen to me? Hi, everybody. Hello? 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 Am I audible? Hi, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes,
Prasanna,
yes.
am I audible?
You're audible. Yes, madam. You're audible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Today, we are going to explore the possibility of learning grammar through literature. Literature, of course, includes all genres of prose, poetry, play, fiction, and short stories. But our today's study employs poetry as a grammar. One of the most popular poems of William Wordsworth has been taken up for study in this regard. So I especially chose poetry because either short stories or fiction or play rather would be lengthy. And in this short span of 1 hour, I thought poems or always better. And now, this is one of the most popular and commonly anthologized poem of William Wordsworth, our great romantic poet. And first, I would like to give a quick reading to the poem. First, I share the screen. Poem. Where do you have the poem? Prasanna, is the screen share enabled?
Yes, yes. Screen sharing
Yeah.
is enabled.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, but your
Hello.
screen. Yes, yes, you're audible. Yes, we can see the screen also. Yes, you can continue, madam. We can see the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can continue.
Now, shall I start? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
I just give a quick reading to the poem.
Can it
Behold,
be made full screen?
You
Can
want
we
me to make
it full screen?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yes.
Fine. Behold her. I made it. I made it. It was good. Behold her, single in the field, yon solitary highland lass, reaping and singing by herself. Stop here, or gently pass. Alone she cuts and winds the grain, and sings a melancholy strain. Oh, listen, for the vague profound is overflowing with the sound. No nightingale did ever chant more welcome notes to weary bands of travelers in some shady haunt among Arabian sands. A voice so thrilling never was heard. Will no one tell me what she sings? Perhaps the plaintive numbers flow. For old unhappy far of things and battles long ago. Or is it humble lay, familiar matter of today? Some natural sorrow, loss or pain that has been and may be again. Whatever the theme the maiden sang, as if her song could have no ending. I saw her thinking at her work, and over the sickle bending. I listened motionless and still, and as I mounted up the hill, the music in my heart I bore, long after it was heard no more. This is just a simple rendering of the poem by William Wordsworth. And now, see, actually, in case of, I would like to try to really use this piece of poem as a genre of literature to handle grammar. And grammar, of course, is too vast a subject. And it's rather it's too vast a domain. And hence, not all aspects could be addressed within a span of an hour. Some of the most common and elementary aspects of grammar are being handled. Like whatever I have really mentioned, subject, predicate, only 10 particular aspects are being handled. Subject and predicate, parts of speech, tenses, types of sentences, figures of speech, articles, numbers, antonyms and synonyms, affixes, modals, and punctuation. And now, when I go to subject and predicate, all of us know what a subject is. or even a predicate is. Subject is the person or thing that's referred to. And here, in case of predicate, it's the other part of the sentence, what is spoken about the subject. And here, in this particular poem, what I'm going to do is, I'm trying to really integrate, correlate both the subject in the poem. For example, uh, in the first stanza of the poem, we have, behold her single in the field. And here, her is the subject and single in the field is the predicate. And when we go on to the next example, she cuts and alone she cuts and binds the grain. And she, of course, is the subject, cuts and binds the grain is the predicate. What I mean to say is, similarly, learners, we can try to really apply the meaning of subject and predicate, and we can go on to decipher in each and every stanza of in each and every line of the poem. And now we go on to the next important aspect of grammar, and which is of course very common and elementary also. And they are the parts of speech. And as we know, the parts of speech are 8 in number, and any even secondary school student probably could be able to really answer them. And in case of noun, and noun, you know, is a naming word, and it's the name of a person, place, animal, or thing. And what we need to really do is, we can try to really identify the various nouns in the poem. And you know, noun is the name of a person, place, animal, or thing, and we can try to really come across a lot of nouns. For example, the cuckoo bird, the Hebrides, the Highland lass, nightingale, etc., etc. And in nouns also, we do have classification like the proper noun, the common noun, the collective noun, and the abstract noun. And proper nouns are those which are really named for specific nouns. And here, bird is a noun, but cuckoo bird is a specific noun. So you can say that cuckoo bird or the nightingale, and even spring for that matter, is the name of a particular season. So all these are proper nouns. And then we go on to the collective nouns. Collective nouns are bands and travelers in the context of the poem. And abstract nouns are those which try to really tell us about something which is abstract, something which we are not able to see. We are not able to really, something, something not concrete. So for example, it could be sorrow, it could be pain, it could be love, happiness. These are all not tangible. And in the context of the poem, we find two abstract nouns, and they are sorrow and pain. Now we move on to the next aspect of part of speech, and that's the pronoun. And all of us know that a pronoun is a word which is used instead of a noun, and it replaces a noun. And some of the examples, and usual examples are of a pronouns are I, he, she, it, they, we, them, etc. And in the context of the poem, we come across certain pronouns like her, herself, she, it, that, I, and me. And now we can move on to the next, and that's the verb. A verb is an action indicating word. It indicates the action, an action, or the status of an action. For example, I am walking, she is singing, the child is sleeping. So all these are action indicating words. And in the context of the poem, we come across several verbs. Just to take you back to the poem, see, for example, we find a number of verbs like behold, listened, mounted, heard, reaping, singing, pass, cuts, binds, listen, overflowing, breaking, etc. So we will be able to identify the next part of it, that's the verb. And similarly now we go on to the next one, adverb. An adverb, as we know, is a word which qualifies a verb. While a verb is an action word, an adverb tries to tell how the action has taken place. For example, when I say she is speaking loudly, speaking is the verb and loudly is the word which tries to tell you about how she is speaking or how the verb is behaving. And in the context of the poem, we find examples like um, gently pass. Again, if I go back to the poem, stop here or gently pass. Pass, of course, is a verb, and gently is the word which indicates how the person has to pass. And the next example here for adverb is, and sings, alone she cuts and binds the grain, and sings a melancholy strain. Listened motionless and still. How did she listen? Motionless. So you find that these are the examples of adverb. Now we go on to the next part of speech, and that's adjective. Adjective is a word which qualifies a noun or a pronoun. See, usually the students have a tendency to get confused between adverb and adjective. And it's very clear that in case of adverb, it qualifies a verb, and in case of an adjective, it qualifies a noun or a pronoun. For example, when I say Ashoka was a great ruler, Ashoka is the noun, and great is the word which qualifies how Ashoka was. So these are adjectives, and in the context of the poem, we come across words like profound, weary, shady, and melancholy, which try to really speak more about the noun. So these are the adjectives. And now we go on to the next important word. And of course, that's rather very simple and easy to understand also. And, but, as, or, hence, since. These are the conjunction words. And in the context of the poem, you find or, as, and as the conjunction. Now we go on. The next important yet confusing, and however much we teach the students, however much we learn, there is always a scope for identifying preposition and even defining a preposition. A preposition is a word preceding a noun or a pronoun and expressing a relation to another word. And a very simple idea to identify a preposition is, rather I should say, this is a very crude way of learning, yet easily understandable. For example, when you try to really split the word preposition, you make it as pre and position. Pre is something which comes earlier, and position is focusing, the position. So if you try to reverse the word position and pre, so you can try to make it as any word which comes earlier to a noun or a pronoun or a verb sometimes too. And here, I just give you a very simple example. For example, this pencil is a noun and the table is also a noun. I can either say this pencil is on the table, above the table, or below or under the table. And both these nouns are being integrated by words like over, on, above, under, below, whatever. So these are the examples of prepositions. And in the context of the poem, examples of preposition are in, by, for, with, it goes on. So what I really want students to learn is, if you try to really take a stanza of a poem, you can try to really identify the prepositions. And of course, the next is interjection. And interjection is a word which expresses an exclamation or a sudden feeling. And in the context of the poem, uh, interjection as such is not available, but we have exclamatory sentences. Now we go on to the next important aspect in grammar, having learned parts of speech, and this is tenses. Tense, of course, is a word which really indicates a time frame, time factor. And as we know, in tenses, there are broadly three categories: past, present tense, past tense, and future tense. And present tense is further subdivided into four different subcategories like simple present, present continuous, or it's also called as present progressive. And then we do have present perfect and present perfect continuous. And in case of simple present tense, we use simple present tense when an action is happening right now. I read, I sleep, etc. And any action which is happening regularly also we make use of simple present tense. And in the context of the poem, we come across certain examples like behold, stop, pass, cuts, binds, etc. And now we can move on to present progressive or present continuous. And typical examples of present progressive are, it indicates an ongoing action which is happening now, and sometimes some temporary habits also. For example, he is always lying, or I am reading. So these are typical examples. And in the context of the poem, we come across present progressive tense in reaping, singing, overflowing. So similarly, we can try to identify other present progressive tenses in in other stanzas also. And the next, of course, is present perfect. This is a combination of present tense and perfect aspects that are used to express past events. For example, I can always say, I have eaten, I have jumped. So this is the present perfect tense, and the next one is the present perfect continuous. And here, in case of present perfect continuous, one example that I was able to identify is, I have been waiting since, you can say just I've been waiting. Or in the context of the poem, one example is there, some natural sorrow, loss, or pain that has been. So this is one example of present perfect continuous in the context of the poem. The same principle can be applied for past tense and also future tense. So since due to time constraint, I'm not really going in detail regarding the past and the future tense. And in this, friends, I just have a small question. You can just, regarding the tenses, since you have just listened to it, you should be able to answer this question. Reaping in the first stanza is an example of, you have three options. You can just drop your answer in the chat box. And I would request Prasanna madam to really look into the chat box. Students, are you able to see the question? Never mind, we can just get back to this again. Okay, now we move on to the next important aspect of grammar. And we move on to the types of sentences. You know, in types of sentences, either we can say we have four different types or even five different types. Some are in the habit of really clubbing both assertive and negative together. Actually, assertive and negative sentences are like the two faces of the same coin. In the sense, both of them, they make simple statements. Any sentence which makes a simple assertion or a statement or a positive statement is called as an assertive sentence, and the any sentence which makes a simple statement yet with a negative connotation can be called as a negative sentence. And in the context of the poem, we have assertive sentence, examples of assertive sentence, like alone she cuts and binds the grain. I saw her singing at her work. These are all simple statements made by the poet, and they can be really termed as assertive sentence. And in case of a negative sentence, the best example in the poem is, no nightingale did ever chant. And similarly, a voice so thrilling never was heard. In a very simple way, we say any sentence which makes a negative impact or no or not in it or neither or nor in it can be really called a negative sentence. And now we move on to the next sentence, and that is the interrogative sentence. An interrogative sentence we know is a questioning sentence. And here we have various types of questions. I remember Prasanna Madam herself really handling this, the types of questions. We have WH questions, we have yes or no questions, we have question tags. Am I audible? Prasanna, am I audible?
Affiliation, I have brought it. ಇದು ಒಂದು tick, tick, tick. But we have to tell now what are webinars we have done and all that.
Do I continue? Am I audible? I should be. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
You are audible.
Now we go on. Yes? Audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Continue, madam.
We go on to the next, and that's a questioning sentence. It can be WH questions, what, where, why, etc. Or even a yes or no question, or even a question tag, or even a rhetoric. In the context of the poem, we have a few examples for interrogative sentence, and they are, will no one tell me what she sings? And the second example is, or is it some more humble lay, familiar matter of today? So in both these cases, you find that the speaker is asking a question. The next type of sentence is the imperative sentence. And imperative, as all of us know, imperative means it can be an order or a command or instructions or request or permission, prayer, plea, appeal, whatever. And in the context of the poem, we have an example for instruction. Like, you look at the sentence, look at the stanza wherein it says, stop here or gently pass. Meaning, the poet here is instructing the passers-by to stop there. And the second example is, oh, listen, for the veil profound. Oh, listen. Though you have an exclamatory mark, here it's also an instruction which really instructs to listen attentively. So these are the two examples which I could find for imperative sentence. And now we move on to the next. And before I move on to the next, I would request Prasanna Madam to really pass on this question to the students and elicit answers from them.
Yes. They can see it on the screen, and if they type the answers down here, I would read it out. Reaping in the first stanza is an example of past tense, present progressive tense. Yes, Nandini tells that it is third, present progressive tense. Lakshmi, Sahana, Kajal Kumar, Priyanka, Pushpa, most of them have got it correct, the answer. Present progressive tense they are written.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. I think the students have really got it. And with this,
Yes.
we now move on to the next. And exclamatory sentence is there, of course, and you find one or two. An exclamatory sentence is one which really speaks about which expresses a strong feeling or an emotion. And you have that with exclamatory mark also in the poem. Now we move on to figures of speech. And all of us know please do not get confused between parts of speech and figures of speech. In case of figures of speech, they are decorative literary devices. And to tell you actually, the list goes on. We have more than 25 figures of speech. And the list is being given. But the thing is, not all these figures of speech are usually in practice commonly. The figures of speech commonly in practice are, of course, as you know, simile, irony, and then synecdoche, metaphor, hyperbole, personification, and even alliteration also. So I'm not really touching upon each and every figure of speech in detail. I would like to really touch upon only those figures of speech which are being identified in the poem. First and foremost, it is metaphor. You know, metaphor is a comparative literary device. It's mainly used for comparison. And you have simile and metaphor, both of them are comparative literary devices. But here, in case of metaphor, there's a difference. In case of simile, it is a direct comparison. I can give you an example. You can say, she sings like a nightingale. She sings like a nightingale. Wherever you use the word like or as, meaning only the singing aspect of her is being comparable to a nightingale. On the other hand, if I say, she is the nightingale of the college, that is an implied simile, meaning each and every aspect is being compared there. Metaphor is a simile. It is also called as an implied simile. And here in the context of the poem, you find the girl's singing is compared to the singing of the nightingale and the cuckoo bird. This is the figure of speech which is being employed in this poem. And the next, of course, is hyperbole. Hyperbole. You know what hyper is? Hypertension. The child is hyper, meaning overactive. And whenever I say hyperbole, it means a poetic exaggeration. You try to say a poet has a license. It's called as poetic license. You tend to really exaggerate just to create an impression of volume. For example, you try to really think about the example of your mother, where you're always in a hurry, you don't get dressed up, and she always says, I have told you 100 times to get up early. When you hear about this 100 times, it doesn't mathematically mean 100 times. Actually, it's just an exaggeration. And the same thing is being used here. And this is called as a poetic exaggeration, and it's being termed as hyperbole. It is just used to create an emphasis of the abundance, plenitude. For example, in case of daffodils, the poem Daffodils, you find 10,000 saw at a glance. Wordsworth says, he sees 10,000 daffodils. This is hyperbole, and the examples of hyperbole in the poem are A voice so thrilling never was heard. Or no nightingale did ever chant. It just creates them, it emphasizes the melody of the girl's voice. Now we move on to the next, and that's assonance. In case of assonance and alliteration, both are repetitions of a word in nearby lines. For example, in case of assonance, it's the repetition of vowel sound, whereas in case of alliteration, it is um, the repetition of consonant sounds. Usually in assonance, they are called tongue twisters also. For example, you find that she sells seashells on the seashore. A proper copper coffee pot. These are all typical examples of assonance. And in the context of the poem, we find, "Oh, listen, for the veil profound is overflowing with the sound." The O vowel sound is being repeated. Similarly, you also find it in "Behold her single in the field, yon solitary highland lies." Again here, the O sound is being repeated. Now when I move on to alliteration, it is, as I told you, it's a repetition of consonant sounds. And here, a typical example, this is also a tongue twister only, usually employed as tongue twisters. A big black bug bit a big black bear, or my cat sat on the mat and made it wet. These are typical examples. And in the context of the poem, you find the N sound in No Nightingale and the S sound in Silence of the Seas are being repeated. So this is alliteration. We move on to the next figure of speech employed in the poem, and that's the rhetoric. A rhetoric is a figure of speech, or it's a poetic device, literary device. It's not necessarily only in poems, especially in plays, and even while in oration also we try to employ this. And here it's a question posed to elicit confirmation. Here the speaker does not actually elicit any reply, but on the other hand, he expects a reply what he wants, and he needs a confirmation for that. And here, typical examples in the poem of rhetoric are, "Will no one tell me what she sings? Or is it some more humble lay, familiar matter of today?" Meaning, the speaker has already assumed the reason. And here, the point employed is imagery. Imagery is a device which helps in perception through senses. See, not all the times we may not be able to perceive what is. Sometimes many things are abstract. Sometimes when we are able to really relate it to concrete things, we can understand that, or rather comprehend that better. When I say it's paining, you understand that it's paining. But on the other hand, if I say it's paining like 100 needles are pricking, this is, you are able to really perceive that better. And here we make use of the senses. And the good examples of imagery in the poem are, "No nightingale did ever chant," meaning the music of the maiden is being compared to the music of a nightingale. So here the poet describes the captivating nature of the girl's voice. And the last, of course, is the rhyming couplet, the last figure of speech. And here, rhyme and it's actually a rhythm building device. For example, you have this, you always remember your primary class wherein your teacher would say, the teacher would always try to really come up with rhymes so that it's very soothing to the ear for the kids. And here, for example, Jack and Jill went up the hill, hill, Jill, pussycat, or whatever. So in such cases, these are rhyming couplets, and this is the figure of speech which is being commonly used right from the elementary schools. And here in the context of the poem, we have grain, strain, hill, still, bore, and lass, pass, bands, sands, etc. With this, we move on the next important aspect in grammar, and that is articles. And articles, of course, you know, there are two different types of articles. One is the definite article, the, and the other one is indefinite article. And the is usually, we use that in case of a few proper nouns. Not all the proper nouns. For example, you cannot say the Rama or the Krishna. On the other hand, we say the Ganga, the Yamuna, the Himalayas. So only in certain proper nouns, we make use of the article the, and also in case of superlatives and universal truths. And the indefinite article a and an are being used in case of singulars and consonant sounds and also vowel sounds. And in the context of the poem, all these three articles are being employed. If you just go through the stanzas of the poem, you will be able to identify all these three articles. Now we move on to the next, and that's the numbers. You know what a number is. By number, I mean singular and plural. In case of singular, it is the single number, and in case of plural, it's the multiple numbers. And you find a lot of words which indicate singularity, like single, solitary, alone, field, etc. And also words indicating plurality, like bands, sands, seas, etc. Now we move on to the next important aspect, and that's the antonyms and synonyms, which of course all of us are familiar with. By antonyms, we mean opposites, and in synonyms, they are the equivalents. In case of antonyms, you come across several words. We can try to really identify the words and try to really find out the antonyms for them. For example, single is multiple, and then stop, start, and similarly, no, yes, breaking, building. You can come up with a list of such words, and what a diligent learner can do is we can try to really identify the words and try to really generate the antonyms for that. And similarly, the equivalents also. For example, the same word single has an equivalent. Single means one, and of course, a stop is ceasing. Building is, you can try to really say, a building is constructing, unhappy, miserable. So you can try to really generate both antonyms and synonyms for the same words. And now, just a short break, you can just come up with the answer for this question. I would request Prasanna Madam to just help the students out in this by reading it. They are able to see the screen, of course. Okay. I'm not able to hear you, Prasanna.
Okay. A word opposite in meaning to sound in the third stanza is silence, noise, notes. Students?
I'm sorry for the spelling error in silence.
Silence, yes.
Typographical error.
I'm not able to hear you, Prasanna. Yes. Now choose the right answer. Type it in the chat box. And
exactly.
Student. Yes. Most of the students have come up with the answer, correct answer, silence. There are some who have
come up with
2, that is noise. Most of them, majority of them, the answer is 1, that is silence.
Yeah, perfect.
Some have got confusion. They have put noise.
Yeah. Because I've really deliberately asked as a word opposite in meaning to sound. Even without they are looking at the poem, opposite in meaning to sound is definitely silence. And sorry once again for the typographical error. And my students have really got it right. Wonderful students. Thank you.
Yes.
Now we move on to the next. And that's learning grammar through sorry, affixes. And as you know, affix is attaching something to something. And there are two types of affixes. One is, of course, the prefix, and the next one is suffix. And anything attached earlier to a word is a prefix. And in the context of the poem, we come across two words which has a prefix, and that's flow is being prefixed with over. So overflow and unhappy are the two words which we come across in the poem. And in case of suffix, it's a word which is attached later, the latter half of the word. And an typical example of this in the poem is motionless. So similarly, what we can do is, whether it's antonym, synonym, or affixes, we can try, any learner can try to really identify such words, or whether it's a prefix or a suffix or whatever. This really enhances the vocabulary of the student also. And now we go on to the next aspect, and that's the modal. And modals actually are verbs. Verbs which indicate modalities like ability, permission, request, suggestion, etc. And a list of certain modals are like may, might, will, would, shall, should, etc. And here in the context of the poem, we have may, could, and will. Now we go on to the next, rather a simple aspect, and that's the degrees. And degrees, you know, they indicate level of intensity used in qualitative comparison. There are three different types of degrees: positive, comparative, and superlative. Positive, actually, it modifies a subject. It tries to tell you about the intrinsic attribute of the particular subject. Whereas in case of comparative and superlative, both give you qualitative comparison with respect to each other. When I say comparative, it is with respect to one another identity, and in case of superlative, it is among the crowd in general. And here, in the context of the poem, positive words really indicating positive degree are much, old, unhappy, and far. For example, if we have to really identify the other degrees for much, similarly, the student can try to identify these words and try to find the other degrees. And in case of comparative, here it is the word in the poem which appears in the poem is farther, and superlative is farthest. And in case of superlative degrees, usually it is being preceded by the word, the article there. And now we move on. And one simple question here is, I love oranges dash than mangoes. I love oranges blank than mangoes. A very simple question.
The question is, I love oranges. There is a blank. Than mangoes. Which is the words you would choose there? Much, more, most. Students, type your answers in the chat box. Which is the right answer? Much, more, most. Choose among these. Students are taking time, thinking.
Do you find it difficult? And always remember, one golden rule is, when you are comparing only two different objects, always use the comparative degree. When it is one among many, then you use superlative degree. This is the hint I am giving you. Any answer?
Not yet.
Okay then, it's okay.
We'll continue. Yes.
Let us move on to the next Next and the last aspect of grammar. We are almost towards the end of our learning, and that's punctuation. See, punctuations are a set of marks that clarify and regulate the meaning. Punctuations are very common, yet rather challenging when it comes to marking them. Some of the punctuations which are very common, like comma and the full stop and question mark, we can very easily really identify and work upon them. But there are a host of other punctuation marks. Actually, there are around 14 to 15 punctuation marks, which I've already really mentioned here, like the question mark, the colon, the dash, the hyphen, the parenthesis, braces, ellipsis, full stop. And here I recall Professor Meenakshi, I think it was on the first day or second day, wherein she made a difference between American English and British English. She mentioned very particularly, in case of Americans, they always use period. And in case of the British, they use full stop. And since we are the colonized, we have taken up the colonizers, and we always use full stop. And then we have the exclamatory mark, semicolon, hyphen, brackets, apostrophe, and quotation marks. And not all these marks are commonly used. Semicolon and then of course colon to an extent, and a comma and full stop and question mark are very widely used, and also quotation marks. In the context of the poem, we come across 9 punctuation marks. And the first one is the question mark. And here again, it's a repetition regarding the 4 types of questions, the WH questions, yes, and rhetorical questions. And here, in the context of the poem, we find that will no one tell me what she sings is a question. And we do not find any other tag. And of course, question tag, the questioning word is towards the end of the statement. And always remember, in case of question tags, if the sentence is positive, if the verb is positive, the tag is negative, and vice versa. If the statement is negative, the tag is positive. You are a good boy. The statement is positive. You have not done the job. Have you? So you find that they are inverse is something in mathematics, as we say, inversely proportional. Here also, it is if the statement is positive, we have a negative tag. And here in the context of the poem, we have only one question. We have a couple of questions, and will no one tell me what she sings is one example. And next punctuation mark is exclamatory mark. It is usually used to indicate surprise, wonder, warning, anger, etc. And here, in the context of the poem, we find stop here or gently pass. Oh, listen for the veil profound. These are the 2 exclamatory marks as indicators of punctuation we find. Now we go on to the colon. And colon, as all of you know, there are 2 equally sized dots on the same vertical line. And the usage part of it is usually it precedes an explanation or a list. For example, in case of your examination question paper, you always come across answer the following followed by colon or as follows. And sometimes we use that in case of indicating hours and minutes also. 12 o'clock, 12:10. When I say 12, then colon and then 10. And sometimes in case of very commonly used in case of mathematical ratios, 2:1, 1:2, and some others are also being given. The usage part of colon is being given, and in the context of the poem, we come across among Arabian sands, there's a colon, and then we go on to and battles long ago. With this, we go on to semicolon and commas. Most of the time, semicolons and commas are used in identical situations, but definitely there is a difference. A semicolon, it shows the connection between two sentences. Whereas in case of a comma, it is within the same sentence. When you want to really try to give different attributes of a person or whatever, you make use of comma there and not a semicolon. Semicolon shows connection between two sentences and it clarifies confusing information also. And in the context of the poem, we find reaping and singing by herself. There is a semicolon. And then again it continues. It says, I listen motionless and still. These are the two instances which we find for semicolon in the poem. And in case of comma, it is used to separate words and word groups. For example, behold her, single in the field, alone she cuts and binds the grain. So, in order to indicate different attributes in the same sentence, we make use of commas. And the next one is apostrophe. Used punctuation mark, and usually we use that for omission of one or more letters. For example, the short forms, I can't do. It's not the SMS language I'm speaking when I say short forms. The usual grammatical short forms, like instead of saying I cannot come, I say I can't come. I try to omit one particular letter and make use of a comma on the top level, upper level. And sometimes to indicate possessive nouns also. It is Rama's book. So in such cases also we make use of apostrophe and here, and sometimes to indicate plurals also. And here in the context of the poem, you please see this word never. Here we is being omitted. And similarly, in case of whatever also, we is being omitted. So actually punctuation is a very important, simple yet complicated device. And now we go on to hyphen. Hyphen and a dash again are almost identical. In case of a dash, it's a horizontal line, slightly longer than the hyphen, and used to indicate a range or a pause. Actually, in case of hyphen, it is used to indicate two words. For example, sometimes we call them as compound words. You think about these far off things, cuckoo bird, they indicate it's a composite whole. That's a short dash. And then the last one is the dash. It's a horizontal line longer than the hyphen. And it is used to indicate a longer pause actually. And see, for example, in the context of the poem, we find, will no one tell me what she sings? So it continues actually. There is no, it's just a pause. And the idea really continues. So with this, we think we have come to the fag end of our presentation. Literature, actually. Grammar study is too exhaustive and elaborate. There are several other aspects which have not been touched upon in this presentation, like voices, subject-verb agreement, and then direct and indirect speech, and many more. Due to paucity of time and space. This is just a sample study to exhibit use of poetry to learn English grammar. Extending on the same lines, paragraphs and extracts from plays can also be used to learn grammar. Any genre of literature can be really used. This is a step forward in the long journey of learning grammar. I hope my dear young friends will make use of this mode of learning grammar. Actually, to start with, what a student can do is, instead of trying to really take any new or different poem, they can start up with the poem which they have in the text, which has been prescribed in the text. And they can try to really identify all these different aspects of grammar. And that really makes grammar learning fun, and it will definitely not be cumbersome or dull. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, madam.
Yeah.
It was a very Very good session. Huh? I think almost all the parts of grammar, the most important parts of grammar, you have touched upon using this studying of poetry and learning grammar through literature. That was a very wonderful session and very productive also. And you kept the students engaged throughout your session by asking questions. And so it was very interactive also. Thank you so much. The students are very
So,
much impressed. They have been benefited. They are sending their messages in the WhatsApp group. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Pramila
yeah,
Nijigal
thank you
from,
very much, Prasanna.
yes, from NMKRV College for Women, Bengaluru in Karnataka. On behalf of management members, CA&A, principal, faculty members, and the student, I extend our heartfelt gratitude for accepting our invitation and preparing all these slides, which were very wonderful, easy to understand. We thank you profusely,
Yeah,
Madam.
thank you very
Pramila.
much,
Yes.
Professor Prasanna. And I thank the management and the principal of V.V.N. College and also my young dear participants. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Participant. Now the time is up. On this 13th day of our online English learning course on effective English language course. Now the second session is on punctuation, which is very, very important. If you miss a punctuation, the meaning itself would change. So punctuations play the most important role in a sentence while writing as well as while speaking. And today we have with us Fulbright scholar, Professor Dr. R. Purnima from Mysore in Karnataka. It is my honor and privilege to welcome and introduce Professor Dr. R. Purnima. Fulbright scholar, Professor Dr. R. Purnima is a retired professor of English from the Department of Studies of English. She is formerly chairperson of Karnataka State Open University, Mysuru. She has to her credit MA, PhD, diploma in German degrees. She had submitted her dissertation and the title was The Concept of the Fallen Woman, a study of the novels of Hawthorne, Flaubert, Hardy, and Carruth. And the supervisor of her dissertation was Professor U.R. Ananthamurthy. Professor Dr. Purnima is extensively covered by visual and print media in recognition of the voluntary service to the underprivileged children under the umbrella of Children's Literary Club, a voluntary organization founded by her in the year 1990. She is founder of this Children's Literary Club located in Mysore. You can visit to know more about Children's Literary Club to her website www.childrensliteraryclub.org. Professor Dr. Purnima has a series of honors conferred on her for her service to the underprivileged children, her work in the field of theater, and also for her work in the field of academics. She was awarded Fulbright Nehru Senior Research Fellowship affiliated to the University of Texas, Austin, United States of America. And the topic was empowering young lives through arts, the role of educational theater in America. Professor Dr. Purnima is also the recipient of Karnataka State Theatre Academy Award, which is conferred on the achievers located in the district of Mysore. She is also an associate professor at Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, Shimla. She is a versatile person. Her passion for theatre will speak in volumes about the work that she has rendered in theatre. She has acted, directed, produced. She has done concept designing, script writing, and costume designing. She has also done theater management besides successfully guiding PhD and MPhil students. So Fulbright scholar, Professor Dr. Purnima has contributed extensively to the field of theater as well as academics. On behalf of management members, CA&A, principal, faculty members, and all the students and also participants, I extend a very warm welcome to Professor Dr. Purnima to this digital platform. She will be teaching us how to use punctuations, the importance of punctuations in English language. Over to Madam Purnima.
Namaskara. Hello. Am I audible?
Namaskara, madam. Namaskara.
Namaskara.
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Thank you. Visible and audible. Okay.
No, you are not visible. You are audible.
Oh, what is to be done to make myself visible?
I think video need to be unmuted from your side. Yes, madam will soon get connected with us. Yes, madam, you can continue. We'll see what can be done. Yes, now we are visible. Yes. Audio is getting connected. We need to wait due to heavy rains in most part of Karnataka also. This network connectivity problem we are facing today. And Professor Dr. Purnima is getting connected to us from Mysore.
Hello.
Yes, yes, madam. Very clear.
Audible?
Yes.
Visible?
Audible.
Visible?
Not yet, but you can continue. We'll see.
I'll continue. I'll continue.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Namaskara. I always begin my lectures, talks, whatever, with the use of the Kannada language, irrespective of the place I am in, whether US or Canada or whatever. So thank you very much, Professor Prasanna, and of course the college for inviting me to participate in this webinar. Audible?
Yes.
Audible, Prasanna?
Yes,
okay.
Audible. Very clear.
Okay. So the topic that I chose to address you all is punctuation. You might be wondering why this, a childlike topic, punctuation, because punctuation is something that you notice when you were a kid, or probably you were taught when you were a middle school student. So how many of us know the origin of the word punctuation? The word is derived from the Latin punctus. Please note, punctus. Punctus. It means point. From the 15th century to the early 18th, the subject was known in English as pointing, and the term punctuation was first recorded in the middle of the 16th century. In fact, ancient Chinese classical texts were transmitted without punctuation. What is meant by punctuation mark? That is the synonym. A set of symbols and marks which are used to clarify meaning in text by separating strings of words into clauses, phrases, and sentences. So, punctuation is the symbol that you use to divide written words into sentences and clauses. So, I repeat, the word punctuation is derived from the Latin punctus, which means point. Okay? Latin punctus. What is the primary function of punctuation? The primary purpose of punctuation is to ensure clarity and readability of writing. I'll come back to this a little later. There are various punctuation marks. I'm sure most of you are aware of all of them, or a few of them, or some of them. Full stop, the comma, the colon, semicolon, the mark of interrogation, that is a question mark, the mark of exclamation, the dash, parenthesis, inverted commas, apostrophe, and the hyphen. I will very briefly just a line or two about each of these and then come back to this a little later. What is a full stop? We see that at the end of every complete sentence, you use a full stop. Don't you? I'm sure you know that and you have been using it. Okay. There are other spaces in which you need to use the full stop. The comma. Why is the comma and when is the comma used? It is used to separate repeated words, similar words, or a series of words in the same construction. I'll give you a few examples. Try, comma, try again. Another. Not friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. No. Friends, comma, Romans, comma, countrymen, comma, lend me your ears. This is from Julius Caesar. To be or not to be, that is the question. You get nothing out of this kind of a statement. To be, comma, or not to be, comma, that is the question from Shakespeare's play. Then, I very briefly introduce all and then in detail come back to them. Okay. Colon is a very important punctuation mark. When do you use it? Use a colon to introduce a list, an elaboration of what was just said, or the formal expression of a rule or principle. For example, I said use a colon to introduce a list. For example, the reading list includes 3 Latin American novels, colon, dot, dot, you know it. The Death of Artemiocrus, comma, 100 Years of Solitude, comma, and The Green House. So, the reading list includes 3 Latin American novels, colon, dot, dot. The Death of Artemiocrus, comma, 100 Years of Solitude, comma, and The Green House, full stop. This is a very brief explication of some of the punctuation marks. I will definitely get back to these a little later. What is a semicolon? The semicolon is a lengthened comma. A semicolon is used to separate well-balanced groups of words. Like, this is your negligence, comma, puck, semicolon, or did you do this willfully? This is from Dickens's novel. I'll come back to that, don't worry. Note of interrogation, that is the question mark, is used after direct questions. For example, where are you going? What are you doing? But you are not using question marks It's not used after indirect questions. In indirect questions, the statement would be, he asked me where I was going. So don't use question mark symbol there. Where are you going is followed by a question mark. But if you position it this way, he asked me where I was going, please don't use question mark. There is the mark of exclamation. Interjections are used to express sudden feelings of joy, wonder, sorrow, admiration, surprise, all these navarasas. Some of the navarasas come into play here. Oh, what a pity. So, followed by an exclamation mark. What a pity. He died? Oh, so young? What a pity. So, what a pity is followed by, what follows what a pity is an exclamation mark, like this and this. The apostrophe. It is used to form the genitive case, commonly used in the case of living things. Rama's. This is Rama's book, or this is John's pencil. Apostrophe, please remember, it is also used to mark the omission of letters. Example, do not. No, we can always say don't. D-O-N apostrophe T. Shall not. S-H-A-N apostrophe T. I apostrophe will. I will. 3 o'clock. Like that, it goes. I'll come back to that. Don't worry. Then we have the hyphen. When do we? On several occasions we use the hyphen, but I'm just right now giving you one instance. Use hyphen in a compound adjective beginning with an adverb such as better, best, ill, lower, little, or well when the adjective precedes a noun. My dear listeners, it appears to be very simple, but when you get into it, so many ripples are created. Even teachers like us begin to feel, oh my God, we had forgotten this aspect. Oh, we did not know much about this. We would also say, had we known this, or had we given more importance to punctuation, probably we would have secured more, or would have taught our students better. So there is always, Akshaya Patre. It is like Akshaya Patre. The more you get into it, the more you plunge into an activity, the more you plunge into an area, the greater is the realization that what you know is very little and what you need to know is a lot more. So don't get dissuaded, don't feel punctured, don't feel, disengaged or disoriented because we have spent so many years not using these marks the right way or not using them at all. So why do we need to use punctuation? To attain clarity and readability, which leads to greater comprehension. So coming back to this hyphen issue, use hyphen in a compound adjective beginning with an adverb such as better, best, ill, lower, little, or well when the adjective precedes a noun. For example, you see, better hyphen prepared ambassador. So you can always say the ambassador was better prepared than the delegates. But it is not necessary to use a hyphen then. But if you say better prepared ambassador, a hyphen between better and prepared is mandatory. Best known work, between best and known. Ill-informed reporter, between ill and informed. Lower priced tickets, between lower and priced. Well-dressed announcer, between well and dressed. So there's always the little done and the vast undone. So I will just go back to this after narrating a very small anecdote. I know we are very fond of teasing and pulling the legs of our gods and goddesses also. So once it seems Indra was known for his voracious reading habits. and he was taking a walk with Narad Muni. All of a sudden, a hilak appeared before him. He asked Narad Muni, what is that? I see a strange sight over there. Narad Muni, with all his decorum and this thing, he said, Lord Indira, that is a hilak made out of the books you have read. Indra felt excited and elated. My God, the number of books that I have read, a hilak, can be formed out of it. He's raised his collars high. They continued their stroll, and then, a mountain-like object appeared. So, Lord Indra asked Narad Muni, what is that I see at a distance? Narad Muni said, Lord Indra, that is the mountain, that is a mountain made out of the books you still need to read. So, Indra brought down his collars. So that means this is, we are using in mythology little tales, little episodes, little anecdotes to remind the world, don't do this or do this. We have a wonderful lesson to learn from this episode. Let us not think that we know the optimum. Let us not assume that we know everything about everything. There are many things which we still need to know. That is why Browning in one of his poems says, our clutch should exceed the grasp, otherwise, why is a heaven for? If we can immediately grasp whatever we want, there is no need for a heaven. We need to try again. In the attempt to try, in this attempt, we keep growing, and that should be our objective. So, let me test. Of course, it's one-way traffic. Let me repeat a little. The word punctuation is derived from the Latin punctus, point. It means point. The languages are so peculiarly constructed. Unless the punctuation is used, it doesn't give us the correct meaning, and it might lead to different or opposite meanings. Like example, Rama, Sita and Lakshmana went to the forest. If there is no comma between Rama and Sita, there is a tendency, suppose it's a foreigner, he would think, we know that Rama and Sita are separate. Rama is the name of a male and Sita. A foreigner would think Rama and Sita are meant for one person only. So if the punctuation is missing, comma is missing there, the meaning gets totally changed, leading to confusion of thought, as there is no person like Rama Sita. Either it is Rama or Sita. Okay. So Rama, Sita and Lakshmana went to the forest. What is punctuation? Hardly there is anyone in the world who does not know cycling. I'm sure you all agree with me. And if you have cycled, it's a wonderful activity. I have a car, but I still remember the days when father gave me 10 paisa to cycle around the place I still stay, Vantikopal in Mysore. That was a wonderful experience. And the one who knows cycling also knows the word puncture. Because your tire might come across something and then you have a puncture, all that. So punctuation is derived from the same word as puncture or punctuality. What is punctuality? These days, we have cars and taxis and rickshaws to take your children to school or yourself to school. At that point of time, cycle would be one of the very few ways in which we reached our school, or we cycled, or we went on foot. So, because we wanted to be punctual, punctuality is a certain point of time. Please remember, a certain point of time. What is puncture? Puncture is a small hole. Punctuality is a certain point of time. Puncture is a small hole, a point, a prick that your tire has, and toss, it goes, and you need to, have it aired again. So the word punctuation has something to do with points. Punctuation is a stop. Rather, it is the right use of putting in points in writing. I repeat, it is the right use of putting in points in writing. What is the origin of punctual? Origin of punctuality, I said, is derived from the Latin punctus, meaning point. Origin of puncture, it's a Middle English. In Latin, it means punctura, a pricking, equivalent to punctus, past participle of pungere. I don't know how to pronounce Latin the right way. Okay. I'm sure you have heard speeches by very great orators and uh, people who hold high offices and leaders of nation. They don't speak, with the same voice or pitch. You get bored, you get disoriented, you get disconnected, you get disengaged. So they either raise or lower their voice, now and then gesticulate. There only then, you see, their talk is driven home to us. Without these pauses, gestures, and modulation in voice, it would be very difficult to understand them, and it would be also very difficult for them to, make the audience remain attentive, isn't it? It's like, just imagine going to a theater show where the actor just uses one monotonous tone. Would you think, even if you have paid the highest price, you feel so disoriented that you feel like running away from the auditorium? So it is very, very necessary that we raise our voice or lower our voice and punctuate, bring in, these stops. Wonderfully, Sarojini Naidu in one of her poems said, silence is a rich pause in the music of life. How wonderful it is. Silence is a rich pause, not only in the music of life, but also while you are writing or while you are speaking. So, silence noted to us through various punctuation marks. So, what is the purpose of punctuation? I already told you, it is to ensure clarity and readability of the writing. Punctuation clarifies sentence structure, separating some words and grouping others. It adds meaning to written words and guides the understanding of readers as they move through sentences. Of course, if you start writing on your own, attempt creative writing, or give a proposal for your doctoral thesis, or write an essay, or whatever, if you attempt writing on your own, you will encounter these situations. So how to handle this issue? You have to do extensive reading. Pay attention to how great writers have punctuated. You have to also practice. In fact, one small fellow, he's from a village named Balkrishna, comes every day to my house at 6:30 to learn English, general knowledge, Scrabble, and other things. So I told him, Balkrishna, I will not only, I'm making him read Tolstoy stories for children. I said, Balkrishna, he's just in standard 1 and the schools have not started yet. So I said, I will help you. I'll sit with you. You attempt reading. So he noticed that, within the words, there was like hyphen or like that. So he wanted to know what that meant and why it was there. So now he has begun. I told him what a full stop is, what a comma is, by giving an analogy to his own life. You see, a full stop is after a complete sentence. So I said, Bala, if you start running and you feel like gasping for breath, and if you feel like stopping, for a little while longer, you stop. And that is the purpose of full stop. Suppose you run for some time and you feel a little tired, you feel like stopping a little only, and that is the purpose of a comma. So a 6-year-old boy could understand at least a little the need for punctuation in writing. So now he knows to identify double quotes, semicolon, colon, because he wanted to know. Because I made him read, he opened up his eyes to these punctuation marks, and so that is where your reading habit takes you. Okay, I already told you. You cannot handle one thing totally separate it from the other punctuation mark, but for the sake of convenience, let us consider them one by one for our talk today. To Two sentences are generally separated by a full stop. The next sentence always begins with a capital letter. Please remember. For example, that is a book. Full stop. It is on the table. So it there begins with a capital letter. So you see that at the end of every complete sentence, you use a full stop. You might be wondering, don't we know this? Is Madam Purnima from Mysore needed to tell us what we already know so much about full stop? There's one more place where full stop is used. A full stop is also used to mark abbreviations and initials. For example, take my own name, R. Purnima. R stands for my father's name, Ramarao. R. Purnima. Or E. J. Ekambaram. Don't we? We have a dot after the initial and then our name follows. Then abbreviations. We don't say I am a Bachelor of Arts. We don't say that. We say I am a B.A. B.A. MBBS. M.B.B.S. MP. M.P. AD. BC. AB. It goes on. The list goes on. I'll just read that full stops, repeating it, occur at the end of the sentence. We can also say that they mark the end of declarative and imperative sentences. So if I start telling you what is declarative sentence and imperative sentence, then I think we need to, be here not till 1:30, but probably till 4:30. Example, let me give you. The university campus is full of greenery. It is away from the din and bustle of the city. The city buses ply to and from the campus. It goes on. The campus canteen caters to the refreshment needs of the students and teachers alike. In one word, the campus is an ideal setting for studies and reflection. So you notice in this not a very long passage, but quite it runs to about 6.5 lines or so. Full stop is the punctuation mark that prevails. The sentences are imperative in nature, containing a main clause with a finite verb. Since maybe other speakers have spoken to you about this, I'm not sure. But what we need to remember is this. There may be subordinate clauses also. It is not just the main clause. There may be subordinate clauses also in a sentence. The subordinate clauses necessitate the use of lighter stops such as the comma or the semicolon. Just as the full stop is the longest pause, the comma represents the shortest pause. I repeat, full stop, is used when you have a long pause, the longest pause, and comma to represent the shortest pause. It is used to, comma, and now we have shifted to comma. It is used to separate repeated words, similar words, or a series of words in the same construction. I already gave you an example. Try, comma, try again. Friends, comma, Romans, comma, countrymen, comma, lend me your ears. It's not friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. No. A comma is mandatory. It is used to separate each pair of words connected by the conjunction and. I will not stop here to tell you what is conjunction. And. Example, sweet and low, comma, sweet and low. High and low, comma, rich and poor, comma, gay and gloomy, comma, all throng my soul. It is used after a nominative absolute. Example, day dawning. It's not day dawning, we arose. No. Day dawning, comma, we arose. It's not dinner being finished, we left the room. No. Dinner being finished, comma, we left the room. It is used to mark off a noun or a noun phrase in apposition. Example, Chitralekha, the warrior queen of India, drank hemlock and died. No. Chitralekha, comma, the warrior queen of India, comma, drank hemlock, comma, and died. You see, after a full stop, the next sentence begins with a capital letter. But here, after a comma, Chitralekha, comma, the warrior, the there doesn't have a capital. You have to notice that. Rama, the son of Dasharatha, killed Ravana, the king of Lanka. No. Rama, comma, the son of Dasharatha, comma, killed Ravana, comma, the king of Lanka. It is used after an adverbial phrase. Example, in short, comma, this is the truth of the matter. At length, comma, they withdrew. So, to know what is adverbial phrase or participial phrase, I told you, if I stop here, it is going to be a very long stop. Then we need to sit here, not till 1:30, but I don't know, maybe 1:30 in the night. It is used to mark off a participial phrase. Example, Alexander, comma, having defeated Porus, gave him back his kingdom. Alexander, having defeated Porus, gave him back his kingdom. No. It doesn't, it is not musical to our ears also, and it is very difficult to comprehend the meaning without the use of punctuation mark. Alexander, comma, having defeated Porus, comma, gave him back his kingdom. It is you also used to separate a direct quotation from the rest of the sentence. For example, open quotes, but tell me, close quotes, comma, said Cassius, comma, open quotes, did Caesar, comma, faint, question mark, close quotes. I was referring to you about Balkrishna, the 6+-year-old boy who comes to me. So he has started reading Tolstoy. It is not that he understands everything. I help him understand. But because he has now developed the habit of reading, he is also able to, notice these punctuation marks. That is why I said it is through practice and extensive reading you are able to make punctuation mark a part of your bloodstream. A comma is usually placed after the following words. Please remember, when they begin a sentence or when they are in the middle of a sentence. What are those words? Moreover, however, besides, namely, lastly, hence, therefore, thus, etc. For example, he had, however, no easy part to act. No, not the right way. He had, comma, however, comma, no easy part to act. So after however, it follows the word however or besides, like that it goes. It is also used to separate short coordinate clauses of a compound sentence. I came, I saw, and I conquered. No. I came, comma, I saw, comma, and I conquered. So see how the use of comma is there? Yes and no must be followed by commas when explanatory sentences follow them. Example, yes, I shall follow you. No, it sounds very, very smooth, but not the way. Yes, comma, I shall follow you. No, comma, I decline with thanks. See, if you use the comma, the kind of tonal effect that your speech or whatever you say, commands. It's so wonderful. We need to follow. There is a saying which goes, if you know how to use, take care of, take care of, it says, take care of the commas and other stops will take care of themselves. So we need to pay attention to details, even the smallest detail. A noun clause, whether subject or object, preceding a verb is separated by a comma. Example, that he will succeed is certain. No, that he will succeed, comma, is certain. How it came about, no one could say. No, how it came out, comma, no one could say. Exclamatory adverbs and sometimes weak exclamations not followed by the exclamation mark are indicated by commas. What? Comma. Are you not ashamed? Comma. A comma is used to separate an adjective clause that is not restrictive in meaning but is coordinate with the principal clause. We, comma, who are elders, comma, should know better. So it goes on like this. So it is important to take care of the commas. As I said, a proverb goes, take care of the commas and the other stops will take care of themselves. So I repeat, the commas are tiny stops, but we cannot master writing unless we master the use of commas. So the comma is the shortest pause and is used between words that have the same grammatical relation to the sentence. I have already told you. Uh, a long, comma, narrow lane led to the house. A long, narrow lane. No. A long, comma, narrow lane led to the house. When words go in pairs connected by and, each pair is followed by a comma. Spades and axes, comma, drums and trumpets, comma, littered the ground. So, similarly, words repeated require a comma. I will never consent. No, I will never, come on, never consent. To separate an adverb clause from a principal clause. He won the prize, comma, because he worked diligently. Give him this, comma, when you see him next. Before and after phrases or clauses let into the body of a sentence. They did not, comma, however. I told you earlier, after however, a comma comes. However, succeed in their attempt. A few more, one or two more examples, then we shift. Use a comma, I told you, before a coordinating conjunction. They are and, but, for, nor, or, so, or yet. Congress passed the bill, comma, and the president signed it into law. The poem is ironic, comma, for the poet's meaning contrasts with her words. But the comma may be omitted when the sentence is short. See, Congress passed the bill and the president signed it into law has a 4 plus 11 words. But it can be omitted if the sentence is short. And the connection between the clauses is not open to misunderstanding if unpunctuated. Like, Wallace sings and Armstrong plays cornet. It's a small sentence, only 6 words. And you don't get confused. You know, there is no anarchy, there is no confusion in this small structure. At that point of time, you can omit comma. On the other hand, the poem is ironic for the poet's meaning contrasts with her words, 12 words. So use of the comma is mandatory. Mahabharata's tales have inspired. You see, use of commas to separate words, phrases, and clauses in a series. Mahabharata's tales have inspired plays, comma, films, comma, operas, comma, and paintings. Phrases. Alfred the Great established a system of fortified towns, comma, recognized the military forces, comma, and built a fleet of warships. How is it used when it is a clause? In the Great Depression, comma, millions lost their jobs, comma, businesses failed, comma, and charitable institutions closed their doors. It's almost like our corona situation now. It's almost like a depression, losing jobs, businesses failing, charitable institutions also closing their shops. Use commas to set off a non-restrictive modifier, that is a modifier that is not essential to the meaning of a sentence. A non-restrictive modifier, comma, unlike a restrictive one, could be dropped without changing the main sense of the sentence. Modifiers I give you this thing. Isabel Allende, comma, the Chilean novelist, comma, will appear at the Arts Forum tonight. You can say Isabel Allende will appear at the Arts Forum tonight. What is, something else is added, that is the Chilean novelist. So that comes in between commas. The other way of putting this sentence would be, the Chilean novelist Isabel Allende will appear at the Arts Forum tonight. No comma. But if you put it this way, Isabel Allende, comma, the Chilean novelist, comma, will appear at the Arts Forum tonight. If it is just running like this, the Chilean novelist Isabel Allende will appear at the Arts Forum tonight. So, scientists who receive the Nobel Prize sometimes contribute usefully to public policy debates. So, it's restrictive. If you make it scientists, comma, who must observe standards of objectivity in their work, comma, can contribute usefully to public policy debates. So, if you say scientists who receive the Nobel Prize sometimes contribute usefully to public policy debates. So, there are a few more. I think I'll shift to, I'll come back to that later if time permits. Okay. Colon. The colon marks a still greater pause than the semicolon, and the purpose served by it is almost the same. But it should not be used as an alternative to that stop. For example, to err is human, colon, to forgive, comma, divine. I could not see him, colon, he was not home. The colon is the heaviest stop after the full stop. The colon is the heaviest stop after the full stop, but its use is fast dying out. Its place being taken by the semicolon. The essential difference in the use of semicolon and the colon lies in the fact that the latter especially draw attention to what is coming after. The colon is still used to introduce a list, a short quotation, or a direct speech. It may well be used as a substitute for word like whiz. Like we say, whiz, semicolon, colon, soil, that is to say. The colon is less, I told you, is less frequently used than the semicolon, especially these days, although traditionally it has been indiscriminately. But you typing your text on the mobile, there's no punctuation, there is no spelling. In fact, I was telling somebody, even if my own kid had to appear for the exam, of course, close relatives are taking, you keep yourself out of the confidential work. That is the rule. Whoever is writing, I would not pass them if they don't follow, if there are spelling errors and these abbreviations uncalled for. And I'm sure Madam Prasanna and me would not be happy if they are abbreviated. It is so miserable for real, honest, true English teachers to gulp and swallow these abbreviations. And where is it leading to? So words themselves are swallowed, and poor abbreviation marks do not exist at all, probably for several, many younger generation students. Please don't do that. If you aspire to be a creative writer, if you aspire to do your doctorate, your postdoctoral, if you want to apply for fellowships of super value, these things are very essential. Very essential. One particular function the colon performs is very clear. That is, it is used before enumeration. What is enumeration? It is the action of mentioning a number of things one by one. Action of mentioning a number of things one by one. For example, the following articles were found in the room, colon, a TV, comma, a fridge, comma, an almirah, comma, a dressing table, comma, and a briefcase. So the following articles, you are enumerating, you are listing out. So what are the articles found in the room? The following articles were found in the room, colon, a TV, comma, a fridge, comma, an almirah, comma, a dressing table, comma, and a briefcase. So use a colon to introduce a list, comma, an elaboration of what was just said, comma, or the formal expression of a rule or principle. Very important to remember this. List. The reading list includes 3 Latin American novels, colon, The Death of Artemio Cruz, comma, 100 Years of Solitude, comma, and The Greenhouse. So use a colon to introduce a list. So I'm introducing a list here. The reading list includes 3 American three Latin American novels, colon, The Death of Artemio Cruz, comma, 100 Years of Solitude, comma, and The Greenhouse. If you want to elaborate, because I say use a colon to introduce a list, comma, an elaboration of what was just said. Example, the plot is founded on deception. The plot is founded on deception, colon, the three main characters have secret identities. So you are elaborating on what was just recorded. Rule of principle, because I say use a colon to introduce a list, an elaboration of what was just said, or the formal expression of a rule or principle. Many books would have been briefer if their authors followed the logical principle known as Occam's razor. That means explanations, colon, explanation should not be multiplied unnecessarily. Madam Prasanna and I would know some novels or, they are wonderful, brilliant, but they are so bulky. Our research scholars would take them, but for their sake, we also need to read them thoroughly as research guides. So bulky, your hands would just, give you a slip. Then we wonder, was this detail that necessary to make the plot advance? So that is, many books would have been briefer if their authors followed the logical principle known as Occam's razor, colon, explanations should not be multiplied unnecessarily. So Occam's razor is a scientific principle. Law of parsimony, things behave in the most economical way. That is, a rule or principle after a colon should begin with a, and there is another rule that after the colon, the principle, the rule is that after a colon, it should begin with a capital letter. That is why after razor, there is colon, explanations begins with E. Okay. So the semicolon. The semicolon is a lengthened comma. I repeat, the semicolon is a lengthened comma. It represents a pause of greater duration than that of the comma. Let me repeat. The semicolon is a lengthened comma. It represents a pause of greater duration than that of the comma. So, a semicolon is also used to separate well-balanced groups of words. Example, this is from Bacon's essay, reading maketh a full man, semicolon, writing an exact man, semicolon, and conference a ready man. Please read Bacon's essays of studies. Okay. It is also used to separate a semicolon. Let me repeat. A semicolon is also used to separate well-balanced groups of words. Example, reading maketh a full man, semicolon, writing an exact man, semicolon, and conference a ready man. An example, I told you I had mentioned this. This is your negligence, comma, puck, semicolon, or did you do this willfully? Question mark. It cannot be, comma, my child, semicolon. There is no time there and no trouble there. So, the semicolon is heavier than a comma, but less heavy than a full stop. Take this sentence. When the milkman comes, she collects the milk, she collects the newspaper from the paper boy. You can jot it down. When the milkman comes, she collects the milk, she collects the newspaper from the paper boy. Actually, it should be, we should insert colon, semicolons, wherever it is necessary. When the milkman comes, she collects the milk, semicolon, she collects the newspaper from the paper boy. They amassed runs in the first innings, but the outcome of the match was not to their advantage. It should have been, they amassed runs in the first innings, semicolon, but the outcome of the match was not to their advantage. So I'm giving you a few examples. One more. The man's duty is to assist the maintenance of law and order, the woman's duty to assist in the ordering, in the comforting, and in the beautiful adornment of the state. It should have been the man's duty is to assist the maintenance of law and order, semicolon. The woman's duty is to assist in the ordering, comma, in the comforting, comma, and in the beautiful adornment of the state. Use a semicolon between independent clauses not linked by a conjunction. The coat is tattered beyond repair, still Loman hopes the tailor can mend it. No. The coat is tattered beyond repair, semicolon, still, comma, Loman hopes the tailor can mend it. Use semicolons between items in a series when the item contains commas. I repeat, use semicolons between items in a series when the item contains commas. Present at the symposium were Henry Goldsmith, comma, the art critic, semicolon. Sam Brown, comma, the Daily Herald reporter, semicolon. And Maria Rose, comma, the conceptual artist. So, use semicolons between items in a series when the item contains commas. In a series, remember, when the item contains commas. Present at the symposium were Henry Goldsmith, comma, who is he? The art critic, semicolon. One more is present. Sam Brown, comma, who is he? The Daily Herald reporter, semicolon. And Maria Rosa, who is she? Comma, the conceptual artist. You have to practice writing. You have to, I told you, read voraciously and practice, and this becomes a part of your bloodstream. Only then, you are able to manage these punctuation marks. Next, we have the question mark, and I'm sure all of you are very, very familiar with, and when these question marks are used. At the end of interrogative sentence, that is, a sentence which asks a question, we put the mark of interrogation. Example, who has done this? Where has he gone? What is he doing? But take care to see that you do not put the mark of interrogation after a sentence which says that a question is asked. Example, you can say, are you going to go with him? Question mark. But when you say, put it this way, he asked him if he would come with him, then don't use question marks. Okay? You have to take care. Note of interrogation is used after direct questions. For example, where are you going? But not after indirect questions. In indirect questions, the statement would be, where are you going? Yes, question mark. Indirect question would be, he asked me where I was going. Then don't use question marks. I repeat, where are you going is followed by a question mark. But if you say, he asked me where I was going, no question mark in this context. Please remember. It is placed after the last only of two or more questions joined by and. Remember this also. Where are you going? Question mark. And why are you running? Question mark. No, 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 no. Where are you going and why are you running? Question mark. See, there are two questions here. Where are you going is one question. And the other question is, why are you running? Two questions are here. But only after the second question, you see, the last question, only the question mark is used. Where are you going and why are you running? Question mark comes only after running. Running is the second or the last question. So, question marks, if you start writing your research papers and all that, you would know. The insertion of question mark after words or figures denotes their accuracy is doubtful. As like, there is a play, for example, titled Adarsh. Let us assume. Adarsh was produced in 690. So, you are not sure whether Adarsh was produced in 690 or 1690. But you want to make a reference to that. You want to allude to that in your essay or in your project proposal or whatever, wherever it is. So when you are not sure of, you're not sure, accuracy is doubted or doubtful after words or figures, within brackets you have to use question mark. Okay. We then move on to the mark of exclamation. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. This is used after interjections or sentences or phrases having the force of an interjection, such as expressing sudden feelings of joy, wonder, sorrow, admiration, surprise, etc. Please don't take it for granted, or don't enjoy omitting punctuation marks. uh, you know Either while writing your examination answer paper or your proposal or whatever, this is part of the structure of the English language. If you don't use, your statement or your arguments tend to confuse the reader, and you tend to lose also. So don't take liberty with the established rules. You develop a personal style, and only in the tradition and individual talent. You ought to know what tradition is, and once in a way you can take liberty. That is only after you have mastered what the tradition has taught you. Without that, just don't ignore, abandon, and not consider these punctuation marks. Okay. So let me repeat. Exclamation is used after interjections or sentences or phrases having the force of an interjection, such as expressing sudden feelings of joy, wonder, sorrow, admiration, surprise, etc. I'll give you a number of examples. What a merry hour we spent! Exclamation. That he should betray me? You're surprised that your own friend has given you a dish? Question mark. Oh, that thine lips had language. Your wonderful, wonderful sentence. What a fall was there, comma, my countrymen? Question mark. What a pity. Sorry, not a question mark, an exclamation mark. What a pity! An exclamation mark. How wonderful! Exclamation mark. Long live the noble king! Exclamation mark. May you be happy. That is the blessing that brides and bridegrooms or children or whoever get. So the note of exclamation is used after vocative cases in emotional appeal, after phrases or sentences uttered with emotion. For example, what a terrible fire is this? Maybe, when we watched the aeroplane yesterday on the TV, I'm sure we have given expression to these feelings of sorrow and surprise, about to touch. They have come from Dubai to be back in their country, about to touch their homeland, and this happens. Oh my God, what a tragedy! With 10 tiny thoughts on the flight. Okay. What a terrible fire is this? Long live the king! Oh dear. So next we come to the dash. The dash is used to indicate a sudden stop or change of thought. Example, if only I had not lost my purse. Dash. But why cry over the spilt milk? If only I had not lost my purse, maybe I would have bought, registered a land somewhere, or bought a house elsewhere, or gone to the shop or to buy a computer or a phone. Phones are very, very essential these days, consequent to online education and all that. And the poor lady loses her purse also. Can you just imagine what the plight would be? If only I had not lost my purse. Dash. But why cry over the spilt milk? So, money, men, machines, friends are all gone. Money, comma, men, comma, machines, comma, friends, dash, are all gone. You know, when there is a flood or when there is a corona situation, once or several times we have heard of the whole family being wiped out consequent to corona. And now we have the floods almost everywhere. Just imagine the plight. So, so your writing will be smoother and more readable if you use dashes and parentheses sparingly. Don't go on, using dashes and parentheses wherever you feel like. That is why you need to master it. Master when, how, why, where this mark should be used. Once you master, you can take a liberty. You cannot take a liberty without even knowing why you are taking the liberty. It is not going to lead you anywhere, my dear listeners, because if you are adjudicated, if you are, evaluated by somebody very stern and serious, they will definitely not pass you, because they go by tradition, they honor and they respect tradition, because punctuation marks, you see, contribute to readability and clarity and greater obscurity. Use dashes or parentheses to enclose a sentence element that interrupts the train of thought. See, for example, the hero of the play introduces himself as a veteran of the war, is one sentence. You can also say the hero of the play within parentheses, it means bracket. The townspeople see him as heroic, comma, but he is the focus of the author's satire. That can be removed, it can be kept, or whatever. Introduces himself as a veteran of the city. Use a dash. Uh, Use a dash to introduce words that summarize a preceding series. I will repeat. Use a dash to introduce words that summarize a preceding series. Example, recklessness and acute sensitivity, comma, greed and compassion, dash. The main character's contradictory qualities prevent any simple interpretation of the film. I'll repeat this for your clarity's sake. Recklessness and acute sensitivity, comma, greed and compassion. On the one hand, the character is very reckless and acutely sensitive. On the other hand, reckless and sensitive. He's both reckless and sensitive. He's both greedy and compassion. They are contradictory emotions and states of feeling. So the main character dash. After compassion, there is a dash. The main character's contradictory qualities prevent any simple interpretation of the film. So the film presents a character who is a combination of contradictory and contrary elements in his nature. So you cannot give a simplified interpretation of the story, the plot, or the character, or the purpose of the filmmaker, or the scriptwriter, or if it is based on a novel, the novelist, or whatever. A dash may also be used instead of a colon to introduce a list or an elaboration of what was just said. Okay. Parenthesis. A word or phrase inserted as an explanation or afterthought into a passage, which is grammatically complete without it, in writing, usually marked off by brackets, dashes, or commas. What is parenthesis? A word or phrase inserted as an explanation or afterthought into a passage, which is grammatically complete without it, comma, in writing, usually marked off by brackets, dashes, or commas. Marked off by brackets, dashes, and commas. I'll give you an example to illustrate all the three. It is used to separate a phrase or a clause from the main sentence. Example, Philip, within brackets, mean, Philip awoke on night from a deep dream of peace. So the 10 sentence is complete. You know what Philip has done. So you are introducing a parenthesis, brackets. Philip, within brackets, maybe his tribe increase, to close the bracket, awoke on night from a deep dream of peace. Maybe the writer thought of, it was an afterthought, and he has introduced a parenthesis to, maybe his tribe increase. The other thing is, dashes. He may be, who knows, a very great man. He may be, dash, who knows, dash, he may be a very great man. The sentence is complete in itself. But this thing is introduced, a dash. He may be, dash, who knows, dash, a very great man. A beggar would be going, somebody very lowly dressed, not impressively dressed. He would not catch your eye. Would not catch your, he or she would not catch your attention. He would be a name in the crowd, but still we don't know what greatness lies within him or her. Then you would say he may be, dash, who knows, question mark, a very great man. Like, they talk about Einstein. There are several anecdotes relating to the way, he dressed. But what a great man Einstein was. The kind of research, being conducted on his brain, wanting to know what is the way in which Einstein's brain was conceived. Mr. Ramu, commas, is used. Mr. Ramu, strong as he is, cannot break the house stone. Mr. Ramu cannot break the stone. Yes, the sentence is complete. You know what Ramu cannot do? He cannot break the stone. But you want to add something to Ramu also. Mr. Ramu, comma, strong as he is a strong man. So what? He's a strong man, but he cannot break the stone. So, strong as he is, within brackets it is introduced. Two dashes and commas before and after may also be used to separate the parenthetical phrase or clause. Now, quotation marks. The quotation marks or the inverted commas should be used wherever a speech is reported direct. Example, open quotes. I do not think it good, comma, close quotes, said Cassius. Open quotes, your reason, question mark, close quotes, asked Brutus. So, when quoted matter is called interquotation, is concluded in the body of a quotation, the main quotation should be enclosed within double quotes, quotation marks, and the interquotation within single marks. Example, I'll just read. My friend said, I heard the woman cry out, tell me he is not dead, and then she fainted. What do you get out of this kind of reading? Nothing. Almost absolutely nothing. My friend said, colon, open quotes, double quotes. I heard the woman cry out, comma, then single quote, tell me he is not dead. Close the single quote, and then she fainted. Close the double quotes. So it's called interquotation when within the double quotes, single quotation marks are used. You can't eat the cake and have it too, said the boy. No. Open quotes. You can't eat the cake and have it too. Close quotes. Said the boy. Oh, master, exclaimed Ananda, am I to leave you at home? Oh, master, within double quotes, comma, exclaimed Ananda, comma, open quotes, that means double quotes, am I to leave you at once? Question mark, close quotes. The apostrophe. It is used to form the genitive case, commonly used in the case of living things. We say Rama's book, Kitten's tail, John's pencil. Please note the following. At a stone's throw, 3 weeks leave, duties call, mercy's sake, the soul's delight. It is also used to mark the omission of letters. Example, you don't have to say do not. Don't, cannot, can't, shall not, shan't. I will, I-W-I-L-L. You can say I apostrophe L-L. 3 o'clock. So do N-O-T. They say D-O-N apostrophe T. K-A-N cannot. C-A-N-N-O-T. It's not necessary. Apostrophe could be used. C-A-N apostrophe T. Shall not. S-H-A, that way. I will. I-W-I-L-L. Instead of that, I apostrophe L-L. It is apostrophe is also used for forming the plurals of letters and figures. Example, eyes. Dot the I's, dash the T's, add 4 5s and 8 4s. I'll repeat. It is also used for forming the plurals of letters and figures. Forming the plurals of letters and figures. Example, dot the I's, dash the T's, add 4 5s and 8 4s. So, apostrophe is used to mark the omission of a letter or letters, mostly for the sake of shortness, brevity. Don't for do not, won't for will not, can't for cannot, it will for apostrophe. Apostrophe is also used to form the plural of letters and figures. I'm just repeating to drive home the point to you. Dot your I's and cross your T's. Add 2 5s and 4 2s. Dot your I apostrophe S, cross your T apostrophe S, add 2 5s. 5 apostrophe S and 4 2s. 4 2 apostrophe S. So, can you try this? I cannot do this at this hour of the day. If you use an apostrophe, it becomes I can't do this at this hour of the day. Another example, we have done that in the last plan itself. We apostrophe V.E. We don't have to say have done that in the last plan itself. A principal function of apostrophe is to indicate position. They are also used in contractions, can't, would not, and all that. I'm just repeating in a different way, which are rarely acceptable in research papers. Please mind. So if you are taking up research later or you are already at it, you have to read MLA Handbook for Research Writing and the plurals of the letters of the alphabets. To form the possessive of a singular noun, add an apostrophe and an S. A poem's meter. To form the possessive of a plural ending in S, add only an apostrophe. Like boyses, you don't have to say. If you say the playground belongs to the boys. Boys' playground. You don't have to say BOYS. Apostrophe yes. It's not necessary. You just say BOYS apostrophe. It means boys' playground. Like firefighters trucks. Firefighter. Plural it becomes firefighters. You don't have to say firefighters' trucks. No. It sounds very unmusical. So not accepted, rejected totally. Firefighters, FIREFIGHTERS apostrophe. Don't use yes, trucks. Firefighters, trucks. But when it comes to women's studies, woman becomes women. Women's studies is a very important subject these days. So women's, but there woman ends with women. It is not ending with yes. So you have to say WOMEN apostrophe yes, studies. Firefighters ends with yes, so you don't have to use yes there. But when it comes to women's studies, because women does not end with yes, you have to use apostrophe followed by yes. Okay. To form the possessive of nouns in a series, add a single apostrophe and an S if the ownership is shared. Like Palmer and Colton's books on European history. For example, let us take our own names. Rama and Krishna's book on Indian history. Rama's book and Krishna's book on Indian history. No. Rama and Krishna's book, they are co-authors. Rama and Krishna's book on on Indian history. You don't have to say Rama's and Krishna's book on Indian history. Just say Rama and Krishna's book on Indian history. To form the possessive of any singular proper noun, add an apostrophe and an s. Venus, Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty according to Greeks. Venus's beauty, yes. So you have to add to form the possessive of any singular proper noun. Please remember, singular proper noun, add an apostrophe and n-s. When it came to firefighters, it is not a singular proper noun. But when it comes to Venus's beauty, Venus is singular and it is a proper noun. So you can add yes after Venus. Venus, sorry, yes, beauty. Venus's beauty. Or Dickens's reputation. Dickens, Dickens ends with yes. Yes, firefighters ends with yes, but you should not be using apostrophe. Dickens ends with yes, but it is singular and it is a proper noun. You are allowed, to use apostrophe. My dear listeners, you can master this only, when you really pursue it, like a bear pursues a man-eater pursues a man. No, it should be a pursuit. Only then, it becomes a part of your system and everything is on your fingertips. So I am really happy that I decided to give a talk on punctuation. It made me, go down the memory lane. We think we know a lot, but at times we would have forgotten, or we take it for granted, but that we remember. And, we just maybe we skip or miss something, because we teachers are also human beings, but it is only repeated reading and constant pursuit of writing which makes you perfect. So don't feel disgruntled or don't feel disengaged or defeated only because it looks so heavy. Definitely with constant pursuit you can master it, as XYZ have succeeded in mastering it. It is not Karanth. You can't say, sorry, Karanth doesn't end with, it's a personal noun, proper noun, but it doesn't end with, so you can say Karanth's book. To form the possessive of a plural proper noun, only add an apostrophe. See, singular proper noun, an apostrophe, and yes, Venus's beauty. To form the possessive of a plural proper noun, add only an apostrophe. The Dickens's economic woes. Dickens's plural, proper. It is a proper noun. Dickens's economic woes. So it's a plural proper noun, but you don't have to use yes there. Very difficult, isn't it? We think it is easy, but it is so difficult. If you just, it is like climbing up a climbing wave. Yes, my dear students and listeners, you can still, manage to reach the shore, cross the bar, if we are in constant pursuit of something. It looks very difficult when we plunge into something initially. As you constantly and continuously perseverance, is very, very, that is why the mission to mark, I think, is called, one of the words used is perseverance. Perseverance is very, very.
Madam. Thank you so much.
I have a little more. 130, yeah. Just please. Hyphen, because I don't want to leave it incomplete, because they might get, think that this is the only one. The hyphen is a shorter line than the dash. Okay. The hyphen and the dash are related to each other in a way, physically speaking. A dash means imagine, a dash means double the length of hyphen, and the hyphen is half the length of a dash. Wonderful. A dash means double the length of hyphen, and a hyphen is half the length of a dash. For example, today, to dash day, tomorrow, heart stirring, man of war, war house. You need to have a hyphen. Hard-hearted. Use hyphen in a compound adjective. Please listen. Use hyphen in a compound adjective beginning with an adverb such as better, best, ill, lower, little, or well. When the adjective precedes a noun, you will start, we need to break our head to understand the whole thing, but definitely, it is possible to master. Better prepared ambassador, best known work, ill-informed reporter, lower price tickets, well-dressed announcer. You need to use a hyphen in a compound adjective beginning with an adverb. Okay. Do not use a hyphen in a compound adjective with an adverb ending. My God. Thoughtfully presented thesis. Lee, adverb ending in ly, ly, or with too, very, or much. Examples: thoughtfully presented thesis, too hasty judgment, very contrived plot, much maligned performer. So, like that it goes. Use a hyphen in a compound adjective ending with a present participle, loving, or the part participle inspired of a verb when the adjective precedes a noun. My dear friends, it goes on. So, in general, do not use hyphens after prefixes. Example: anti, co-multi, non, over, post, pre, re, semi, sub, un, understand. A few examples, then we begin, then we call it a day. Anti-war, overpay, semi-retired. Do not use hyphens after prefixes. Co-worker, post-war, sub-satellite, multinational, pre-scheduled, this one word, no hyphen. Unambiguous, non-judgmental, reinvigorate, underrepresented. Okay. So, capital letters, just one sentence. Like punctuation, use of capital letters also should be done with care. You know, all words in the nature of titles should begin with a capital letter. Names of persons, other titles, descriptive names like Napoleon the Great, proper names and adjectives derived therefrom in general. Indian, name of days, etc. Ash Wednesday, Christmas, February. Titles of books: The Vicar of Wakefield, The Hindu, The Mail. Personifications: can flatterers soothe the dull ear of death. Nouns and pronouns referring to the deity: he, him, his providence, the Trinity. Abbreviated titles: MA, delete. You cannot say MA, Master of Arts. You cannot be using, small letters. You must use MA. Okay. In addition to whatever I have said, the following words must also begin with a capital. To begin a sentence, the first word after a full stop or its equivalent, the first word of each line of poetry, you notice, the first word of a speech directly quoted, the exclamations, oh, oh, usually, the pronoun I. So thank you very much. I would like to thank V.V.N. College and Madam Dr. Prasanna for this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Thank you again. Thank you, my dear listeners and
Thank you.
participants,
Yes.
for being with me this afternoon. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. You could see the chat box. The appreciation is pouring in. They have used the adjectives: energetic speaker, enthusiastic speaker to you. Though you
Thank
could,
you.
yes, though you could not make use of PPT, they have given the feedback that PPT would have been very useful, but without it also, madam has managed to reach us out and very exhaustively knowledge she has given about punctuation. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
so
I
much.
just would like to add, like you, my
Yes.
dear friends, I'm a newcomer, a novice to the field of technology. I would love to learn. I'm 66, but I don't abstain from learning something new. So I would love to learn in future. At times I have used, but I didn't want to use it now for the fear of failing. I thought if concentration is more on PPT, the presentation would take a back seat. So I decided to keep it verbal. Definitely, I will learn, just like I wish and I want you to learn punctuation with all the respect and the details. Okay, thank you.
Good,
Thank you.
madam. Your oratorial skills, we could have the taste of your oratorial skills and dedication that you have done to the
Th-
field of theater.
I'm a theater
Well,
person,
madam.
so you
Yes,
can't,
yes,
you have to bring in expressions, modulations, and all that. Otherwise,
yes,
you cease to be a theater person,
yes,
isn't it? Thank you
yes,
so much for the
yes,
appreciation.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank
Thank you.
you. On behalf of the management members of V.V.N. Degree College and CE and A, Principal Professor G. Venugopal, all the faculty members and students at V.V.N. Degree, and even on behalf of the participants, I express my sincere gratitude to you for accepting our invitation and coming with a lot of preparation and reaching out to the participants.
Thank you.
ma'am.
And I would like to once again thank your management, the principal, the Department of English, and the students and the administrative staff, who have been helping you to run the show. And definitely a special thanks to Dr. Prasanna
Thank you.
for having me with you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Well, participants, the link is already posted in the chat box. So you can go to the link, give your feedback, and attempt the answer. So these are like internal tests for you. Tomorrow also, you will have one short test, just like what you had today. 14th day also, you will have internal test. Now, the final exam would be on 15th day, that is August 10th. First session will be for the test, and you have to come prepared. Listen to all the audios and come prepared. The questions will be based on all the sessions, the topics that we have completed so far. So the marks allotment will be based on the exam as well as the test. So wish you all the best. Good luck. Stay at home, stay safe, take care, and have a great day. Thank you.